One of the most important finds at Blombos was a piece of ochre. They've basically made the one surface flat by grinding it and then taken a sharp piece of ochre, a crayon in essence, and they've drawn a design in two different directions, create an abstract pattern. So it's the first known drawing, dating to 75,000. As we came down to a level which was dated at 100,000 years old. Lying on the surface were two of these abalone shells. And this abalone shell was surrounded by ochre, stone for grinding, and the seal fat. And what they'd done is they had put together the paint mixture to apply to surfaces like the wall of a cave. The breakthrough about people being able to put designs onto an object like that is that it allows you, for the first time, to store information outside of the human brain. So you are able to store information in an abstract form, but it wasn't abstract to them. Then you can communicate with people without having to talk to them. It's not just simply putting down what you see on the wall of a cave, but rather taking this abstract idea and creating a message that somebody else who comes to the cave after you will be able to look on the walls, but they will understand.
Kuritoni hela how tamozoni ka pilo e gololo seile e ka itela hore dina le mata ha o ta ka pilo ha go o nyatsisa hore taba se ba di bua ba ipuela le di sile.
Tsodilo is the highest area in Botswana. The area around Tsodilo is generally a flat area. So you see this protrusion over the landscape that is very mind-blowing. I mean, it's like, wow, it's the place you want to get to.
The name itself actually means the hills of the gods or the place of the gods. And there's a waterhole. I think it's the only maybe for miles around. And when you use the water from that place, you have to respect the spirit that makes that water perennial. And so it was a very, very important focal point from people that lived for millennia in those environments.
Tsodilo is, of course, currently a World Heritage Site for three main reasons. Firstly, the archaeology of the area. Tsodilo has a continuous occupation for up to about 100,000 years. And secondly, the relationship of the people with the landscape. The third reason, and very important one, is the appreciation of the human creative genius that is involved in the rock art. There are at least 4,500 individual paintings at about 400 panels across the landscape. This is all within a 10 square kilometer area.
They were not actually, done as a single event. If you look at the patination processes, there's some that are much older because of heavy patination, and then some are much fresher looking. Looking across Southern Africa, there are certain aspects of the rock art that seem to be widespread across the region, but there are certain things that are specific to those particular regions. Certainly, from the manners of depiction, so the ways that people painted these subjects, the symbolism behind rock art is a very important thing to think about. If you go deeper, analyzing all these different minutiae in the art, then you start to realize that there's more to it than just aesthetics.
The spirit world is represented, certainly, in the pictures. The therianthropes, as we call them, half animal, half human, a man with hoofs, for example, or an antelope head. And then there are the transformed figures. This is a baboon shape that's got horns and is carrying a quiver. There's this constant interweaving of images. So it's really the whole overall message of interwoven associations and meanings that must have struck them. That rock face was probably itself a membrane between this world and the spirit world that lies behind it. These were not just trivial pictures of daily life. These were exceedingly powerful, meaningful pictures.
Ekola pia ke gola batsadi ba me ona ba ntse ke le lebala ke le moshimanyana ke kgatela ntse ke di bona ya no ke botsa ntse ba re nyalo tse ke diphologolo ke diphologolo ba shimola ntse ba ke re pele ne re itsamelela re le bana re shana mo tsone ke taopela ka re ke tironyane ya go ti ke a re hira kere kore ke lehelo ra rona.
When you get to the Tsodilo Hills, there's a whole lot that is invisible that belongs to this category that people call intangible heritage, where people just walk in there, they haven't seen anything. They say, I feel something here. And I can't describe it, and it's probably the only thing that I can think of is spiritual.
Dancing among the San community, it comes in many ways. The rhythm and the stamping of the feet is definitely something beyond just the singing. There's a message there as well. People are entreating the ancestors for intervention in a situation. Often it's around that time that then one of them might go into a trance or into an ultra-body experience of some kind, the stiffening of the body and all that.
In an altered state of consciousness, images are projected onto surfaces like a slideshow.
They might then feel the power enough to lay hands on the rock.
And lo and behold, they discovered painting. So art then took its origin in a religious experience of projection of images. And that's my view of how people came to make images in the first place. One of the postures that is depicted in the rock art is what we call bending forward and arms back. Very awkward posture, not the sort of posture that could happen by accident and then get depicted. And it is found all over Southern Africa. Here, you can see people dancing with their arms in the backward posture. And it puzzled us for many years. What could it mean? It must mean something. I was in the Kalahari and we spoke about the dance, and one of the men stood up and put his arms in this position and bent forward, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up, And he explained that people do that when they're asking God to give them more potency, and God puts the potency into their spine, and it boils up the spine until it explodes in the head and takes them to the spirit world. This magnificent spirit being, instead of arms back, has transformed arms in these feathery lines from the top of its head, and it's connected to the heart beast, which is probably the source of the potency that the medicine man is using to transform himself into a spirit world being. And here it is for our contemplation. We see what they saw in the spirit world.
Yaanong mo botshelo jwa me o thabatsong tsa rona tse mo gompieno ya kore di mo moe wa me kore ke beile thata mo tumelo ke beile thata mo dithabeng.
Local people have lived here for thousands of years, but they have respected these paintings as the relics of their ancestors. But we know that these paintings are not going to remain forever. One day, they will definitely not be there. The panel here is a good example of the different conservation problems we have here at Tsodilo. As you can see here, the minerals that coming from the water, from the rocks that are destroying this. And if you look carefully here, there is a painting which is now almost all gone. Like this panel is on the sunlight, but also there will be sand abrasion that makes it to be fainted like that. And this oryx here has something that is typical of some spots within Tsodilo, where there's been some kind of exfoliation. And we have been thinking that there have been talk about some people from the community believing that they want to make the animal alive. And so they will be, hitting on it to get it alive in their prayers. So we want to see if that is still practiced now, so that we see how to manage it, whether there are other ways that they can still get the same meaning without destroying the rock paintings. Yeah. My thinking and my vision for Tsodilo, both personally but also as part of my job, really is in the integrated management plan for Tsodilo. The future where this area will be fully managed by an empowered community, with government only as a facilitator. The principle for this is obvious, that the local people have to have a relationship with the landscape, with the resources, cultural heritage resources. They have to have meaning on it, because that will be the true ownership and empowerment.
I think it's true to say that rock art deserves a central place in human heritage. It goes back longer than any other art form, and San rock art, of all the rock arts in the world, is the finest. Some of the images are no bigger than half of your thumb, with details in them. And this is miraculous, that all those years ago they could do that. And to ignore it would be to ignore our human heritage.